Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the audience joining us at our DNC headquarters in Center City, Philadelphia, here at City Tap House, and to all those watching online and at C-SPAN 2. I'm Paul Kane, a congressional correspondent for the Washington Post. I'm joined by the great Senator Charles Schumer from New York. Let's get right to the questions.
Great. Ready to roll.
All right. Senator, your DSCC chairman, John Tester, the other day said to me, kind of boastfully, about the Senate majority, I think we're going to get to 51. The question is how many more? Can you say it? Are you guys getting the majority? Can you guarantee it?
I think no guarantees. There never are. The odds are more like than not that we would take back the Senate majority. Several reasons. One, the electorate is moving in a Democratic direction. When middle-class incomes decline, people tend to be more progressive. That's what's happening. And so if you look at the polling data, the people are tending to be more Democratic than they were 4 years ago. Number two, the Hispanic vote is going to be overwhelmingly Democratic. Hispanics smell what's going on in the Republican Party and are voting overwhelmingly for us. It went, I think the high was 70% in 2008, Barack Obama. It'll be higher than then. But the biggest change is the millennials. 18 to 35 is going to be the largest age cohort in this electorate, even if they voted moderate numbers. They're my kids. And they are much more Democratic than the electorate as a whole. One survey I saw said, if you pushed people, are you Democrat or Republican, you end up being everybody, 42-44, Republican, Democrat. But millennials, less decided, but 37-22, Democrat, Republican. 4 reasons the millennials are with us more than others. A, paying for college and the burden of college debt once you get out. They sort of realize that we're better for that than the Republicans. Third, these are sort of in ascending order of importance. Third, they hate the way we finance campaigns, Koch brothers et al. They know that we're more on their side, but the top 2 were the ones that interested me the most. Number 2, they don't like the odor of discrimination, even bigotry in the Republican Party. Anti-gay, anti-LGBT, anti-Muslim, anti-Hispanic, anti-all of this. God bless them. This generation was brought up in a much less bigoted generation than our generation. I went to high school. I don't think there was an African American or Hispanic in my high school, which had 5,000 people. I didn't know any people who were gay or lesbian because this was pre-Stonewall. Nobody, even if they were, would say so. And this generation's grown up with a far greater diverse group of friends, acquaintances, and they don't like it. They don't like how the Republicans are acting. It's against their grain, and it's just an odor that they pick up. And at the top of the list, interestingly enough, is climate change. The younger voters, even Republican younger voters by a majority, believe the federal government ought to take strong action against global warming. You put those things together, the electorate's shifting Democratic. And that's good. Secondarily, I think Trump is going to do very poorly. I think that he has an amazing verbal acuity, and he's very good at appealing to, let's say, our harsher emotions, our more negative emotions. And that works for about 1/3 of the electorate. Now, let's not forget the number of people. There are different numbers all over the place, but the numbers I've heard are 27 million people voted in primaries, 14 million Republican, 13 million Democrat. It's more or less that. 130 million will vote in the general election. And the people in the middle who haven't voted, you know, that tends to be the people who vote in the primaries tend to be more far left on the Democratic side and more far right on the Republican side. The people in the middle, Trump's appeal is much more limited than to the Republican primary voter. Put all that together, things are moving in our direction. Then add to that, sorry, it's a long answer, a good map, 2 Democratic seats in jeopardy, anywhere from 8 to 11 Republican seats in jeopardy. The odds are we'll get back the majority. Now, the one caveat,
sure,
the Koch brothers themselves are pouring a fortune into a good number of our races. I have never seen money like this before. And They're not spending in the presidential. They said they're not going to support Trump, and they're putting all the money here. And, if they outspend us 3-1, we'll probably still win. If they outspend us 6-1, yeah, we'll still probably win, but it makes it, the more they spend, not absolutely, but ratio-wise, the tougher it is. On the other hand, even their ads are not as good or as effective as ours because we have the issues on our side going back to the first.
All right, let's go back to the millennials, though. They have trended more liberal over the years, but in the presidential race, you've seen a real division in the primary where a lot of the millennials have been Bernie supporters. This week, we began especially with a lot of protests from the Bernie supporters. Coming out of this convention, do you have enough unity going forward?
Absolutely. 95% of the Bernie supporters' prediction will vote for Hillary Clinton. You guys in the media are great at finding the guy in the funniest hat or gal in the funniest outfit who will say the most outrageous things. 100 people walk out of the convention. Out of 1,800 Bernie supporters, it's a news story.
They figured out where our media tent is. They actually walked straight
I know,
out
I was there.
to the
I saw it.
media tent.
1,000 people demonstrate in the streets. I mean, those are not, I'll tell you, I have good relationships with the Bernie supporters in our delegation in New York. The first day they were upset. By now, most of them are saying they're voting for Hillary. My prediction, 95+% will vote for Hillary, and more than half will work for Hillary. The anathema of Donald Trump, stronger with the millennials than any other age group, is going to just push them in our direction.
What do you have to do structurally going forward, and how is the coordination between the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign, Senate races, House races across the map? What do you need to do to execute this campaign?
Well, the good news for us is the Hillary battleground states, and actually the Senate states where we have the best chance of picking up seats, has a great deal of overlap. You look at battleground states, whether they be New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, or Ohio, or Wisconsin, or Florida, you can go Nevada, you can go down the list. And so, there's a great deal of overlap. And there's a great deal, whatever legal coordination is allowed, we're doing.
Okay. But last night...
And let's face it, we are not joined at the hip, but pretty close. Probably the number one factor that will determine whether we take back the Senate is how well Hillary does. I think she's going to do very, very well.
But President Obama said something last night that almost seemed to run counter to what a lot of your Senate candidates are doing. A lot of your Senate candidates are saying Pat Toomey equals Donald Trump, Rob Portman equals Donald Trump. And the president, in his speech, his pretty well-received speech, said, what we heard last week in Cleveland wasn't particularly Republican, and it sure wasn't conservative. Was that a little message foul up? Because you want to tie them together.
No, look, Trump is different than the hard right. They both hate government. They appeal to the hatred of government for different reasons. But the candidates are having an awful time figuring out how to deal with Trump. And that remains. Are they supporting him? Are they not supporting him? On what issues do they agree with him? On what issues do they disagree with him? He's put them in a pickle. Now, McConnell says to them, forget Trump and run a national campaign, run a local campaign. Sorry, Mitch, this is a national election if there ever was one.
Which Senate race, every cycle, there's always one sort of Senate race that is both kind of a tipping point and a symbolic definer of what really happened that year. 2006, Jim Webb's win in Virginia. 2008, Al Franken's win. Okay. 2014, Cory Gardner kind of defined the cycle. What race are you looking at?
I wouldn't say a race, but I would say the angst in the Midwest about trade, about jobs, about incomes is going to, you could end up with a situation where Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Missouri all have 2 Democratic senators.
But does Trump, the way Trump is campaigning, does he play into that sentiment, that fear here not in Philadelphia or its suburbs, but out in Johnstown?
Here are 2 points on that. First, the number of blue-collar, high school-educated voters we will lose is smaller than people think, because the people who go for Trump's appeal, particularly immigration and, the them versus us, they're already Republicans. Here's an interesting fact. High school-educated males, Democrats are pro-immigration reform, Republicans are anti-immigration reform. Both high school educated in the same places. So in other words, the kind of appeal that Trump has brought out above the table, Republicans have always been using below the table, and it's already won a large percentage of those people over. On the other hand, Trump is so new that and this is the second point, for every blue-collar Democrat we will lose in Western PA, we will pick up 2, 3 moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And you can repeat that in Ohio and Illinois and Wisconsin. The voters who are most out there figuring out what to do are not the blue-collar Democrats. They are the college-educated Republicans who lean Republican or are independent and in the suburbs.
All right, let's flash forward to January 3rd and imagine you guys have taken the majority. You will be the majority leader, not the minority leader. It's not wood. You can knock on this. There's a lot of wood up there.
We're in one of these new modern places. Wood is unheard of. I understand.
It's all glass and formica.
They don't even know what formica is these days, right? That was a big thing in the 60s, formica. Ooh.
All right. What type of Senate leader do you envision yourself being? Every person who has become majority leader in the time I've covered the Senate talks about regular order, diffusing power to committee chairmen, and broadening the leadership plate and giving more responsibility to other people. What type of leader do you want to be?
Well, look, we have a load of talented people in the Senate. I mean, the quality of our younger Democrats, the most junior half, mirrors the Senate, in the late 60s and early 70s where there are so many giants. And we have so much to do. I do hope that they will have, a lot of say in what goes on. But the type of Senate leader I want to be is somebody who gets things done. I think this is serious stuff. There's an economic obligation. We have an economic obligation as Democrats to get middle-class incomes moving again, to show the middle class who are there that they can stay there. They're worried they can't. To show those trying to get to the middle class that there's an easier way to get there. We have a political obligation because we want to clean up this system. It is such a mess. And if we were to get a good majority in the Supreme Court, I think the odds are high that Citizens United, which is poison, would be eliminated. But we have a moral obligation, above all, to me. If government remains paralyzed, which the Tea Party in the House and Mitch McConnell in the Senate has done such a good job of doing, people are on the edge of just totally losing faith in government. That's the right wing's goal. They want them to lose faith in government, but more importantly, even losing faith in this country. And the sunny, optimistic America that we have always known could go away, and we could end up with something a lot different than what we know. I fear that. I told people that if we didn't improve middle-class incomes, this before Trump and Bernie, if we didn't improve middle-class incomes 5 to 10 years from now, we'd have a government far different than the one any of us have known. We could. I worry about that. And the moral obligation is to show the average voter that we can get government moving again, that we can focus on what they need, whether it's a college student with debt or a worker in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, who can't get a good-paying job, or a woman who's about to retire and used to have Social Security and a pension, and the pension's gone. If they don't have faith that we can actually do something to improve their lot, God help us. So I think there's a moral obligation, and I believe, and I will try to lead my caucus best I can, in terms of getting things done. I'd rather get things done and not get everything we want than make a lot of speeches and stay pure and accomplish nothing. And that, to me, is fervent. It's not just, wouldn't it be nice?
What about in terms of the leadership structure underneath you, in terms of
Let's win it first.
You're not willing to talk about Durbin Murray and how that's all going to play out?
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
All right, for the audience out
You
there.
ever hear of that out there, you young people? Gomer Pyle, you ever hear of him?
All right. Some people out there might not know this, but you are the couple master. I was walking around in the concourse last night, saw you run into Brian and Katie Fallon.
Oh, yeah.
One of your most esteemed couples, former workers who
Yes.
got married because they worked for you.
Yes.
All right, first question, how many Schumer couples are there right now?
Mike Lynch, my chief of staff, who is a Schumer marriage. Schumer marriage means you didn't know each other, you met on the staff, and you got married. 13. And 3 cooking.
3 cooking. Whoa, that's some pressure.
Not
right.
saying who they are.
Why?
I'm usually the last of... I do try to importune in certain instances in my characteristically delicate way. But sometimes I'm the last to know.
Is it because you're such a demanding boss that they
Yes.
have no life other than the office that they end up getting
Yes.
married together?
The good spin on Schumer marriages is due to my great Mike Lynch, my great chief of staff. We're the closest knit staff on the hill. They celebrate all the holidays together. They St. Patrick's Day and corned beef at someone's house, and Thanksgiving at someone's house, and birthdays. So we are, I think, and they go out drinking a lot. But we are the closest knit staff on the hill. Would be the good spin, and the bad spin is yours. That they work so hard, they don't have a chance to meet anybody else.
But Senator Tim Kaine has one-upped you. He actually says the weddings. He has been the officiant,
Yeah,
I think,
okay.
in 12 or 13. Why haven't you officiated
Good
weddings?
story.
Come on.
I officiated at one wedding. It wasn't a Schumer wedding, but it was one of my staff guys, my chief body guy. And in New York, you cannot be a justice of the peace if you're a senator. But Massachusetts, he was marrying a young woman from Massachusetts, and her father knew the governor, and the governor can make you justice of peace for a day. I was the justice of the peace. I went up there, I performed the wedding. They were nice enough to serve my 2 favorite foods, Peking duck and mocha cake, and they got divorced 10 months later. I will not officiate at any more weddings.
Perfect. All right, a little closer to home, some New York political questions. Your staffer, Preet, is the U.S. attorney who has just run roughshod over the culture up in Albany. Why is that? Is there something with the New York culture? Has Preet gone too far in some cases?
Look, I made a rule, particularly after Preet became the U.S. attorney, that I would not mix in. I don't talk to any of the U.S. attorneys I've had the good fortune to recommend about any case, any ongoing case, and I made an effort not to influence them. So I'm not going to answer that question because I think that might do that.
All right. A really broad question then. The National Democratic Party has become really more progressive, more liberal on some issues. It was just a little over 4 years ago where Joe Biden sort of accidentally said he was for gay marriage, and President Obama wasn't even there yet. Now it is part of your platform. 10 years ago, you were chairman of the DSCC in a cycle in which a lot of the candidates were probably trying to get the NRA endorsement, Democrats, and now you're racing to appear with Gabby Giffords and getting Michael Bloomberg's backing. Has the party fundamentally moved too coastal, too liberal to appeal to the heartland?
Okay. I think the country has moved in a progressive direction on the social issues and on the economic issues. And I think the Republican Party has ignored that change at their peril. I think in good part because of the good work of Bernie Sanders, the Democratic Party has accepted it. I think Sanders has made us a stronger party and will make us a better nation. Here's one little interesting statistic. I may have the numbers somewhat wrong, but I believe I have them right. Pew does a survey of America. And it's 20,000 families, and it's sort of snapshot of the American family. And it's mostly non-political. How long does it take you to go to work? How many times a week do you go to the supermarket? They always ask this question, how many times a day do you brush your teeth? And I wondered about that one until I learned that Procter & Gamble bought the survey. But they've been asking this, they ask a handful of political questions, and one of them they've asked is, are you a moderate, liberal, or conservative? The last time there was a major change in that alignment was 1981, Reagan Revolution. And it was 40 moderate. That just for you young folks, that was so dramatic that that was the year I was elected to Congress, 1980. New York had 7 new congressmen, 6 Republicans and me in New York, one of the bluest states. Okay. So, 40% moderate. It jumped up to 35% conservative, and liberal went way down to 17. Stayed that way pretty solidly for 40 years until this year. And it's still 40 moderate, but it's like 26 or 27 conservative and 23 or 24 liberal, which underplays the progressive shift in the electorate because due to our dear friends at Fox News, liberal is a dirty word and conservative is a positive word. So I think it's the country that's moved over. I think that's one of the reasons we're going to do very well in November. I think the likelihood is Hillary wins the presidency by a strong margin. The likelihood is we take back the Senate. And there's even a chance we can get back the House. So I think that is where the electorate is moving. The Trump problems that the Republicans have makes that even better for us. But even without it, I think it would be a good election for us.
All right, that's pretty much all the time we have today. We'll ask one final personal question. You have publicly basically been pleading with your recently married daughter to deliver a grandchild.
Oh, I have not.
You did so. You did so in the Mansfield room. All right.
The Mansfield room?
Yes, in front of a bunch of accountants.
Was she there?
No, she wasn't.
Oh, okay.
All right.
She knows. She knows.
All right. Okay, that's all the time
Listen,
we have.
I am so happy. She married the right guy. The wedding day was the greatest day of my life. I have plenty of joy from that at the moment. That's the truth.
All right. That's great. Okay, everybody, in just a few minutes, we'll have Dan Balls up here with Hillary for America campaign manager, Robbie Mook, who will hopefully break some news. Stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.